My name is Peyton Lee. I'm the Enforcement Investigation Analysis Officer for the Office of Meat and Poultry. Um, I basically handle all of the outreach. So any questions you may have on obtaining a custom exempt or poultry exempt or inspection, grant of inspection, I can help answer any of your questions. I also, not so much as with the public, but I conduct food safety assessments within all of our state inspected meat plants, which right now there's only 6 of them, but hopefully, some more will open up anytime as soon as people are interested. So yeah, I'm just going to get started. We're kind of going to go through, I'll kind of give kind of an overview of what we do. Trying to get it, there we go. So we're with a part of the Division of Animal and Food and Industry Services. We have a cooperative agreement with the USDA FSIS with a equal to program. That means our state programs are equal to or better than the state or the federal, which means all the requirements are the same. Sanitation, everything is kept at the same level. And so whether you are interested, the main difference is that state inspected establishments, the products can only be sold within Virginia. The Talmadge-Aiken TA is the state version of a federal plant. So it operates like a federal plant, but the products can go across state lines. They can pretty much go anywhere. They can be exported, but I need to update the numbers a little bit because we've had some that have gone just back to custom, and we've actually added a few more, I believe. So in the end, our mission is to administer meat and poultry inspection laws and regulations, and we're designed to provide and maintain a safe, unadulterated, wholesome, and properly labeled meat and poultry products. So that goes all the way back from slaughter all the way to inspected individual cuts. This just kind of shows where we are within everybody. I know we're hearing from a lot of the different agencies today, and so that's just kind of where we fit into everybody. Kind of just a little bit of who we are as a team. We're a mixture of field and office personnel. Like myself, I go out into the field. I cover the entire state, so all edges, Virginia. And then other than that, we also have our regions broken down. We actually just added a new 5th region, which is the Central Richmond region. And so those lines are a little bit different now, but we've literally it just went into effect January 10th. So we don't have an updated map yet, but this is kind of how, none of the Southwest changed really at all. All of that is still the same. And the Harrisonburg region is still pretty much the same, but the Lynchburg and the Ivor regions are a little bit different now just because of the addition of the new region. So I'd say the main part of our meat and poultry is our inspection. Those are at plants that slaughter, that process. You can say, what does that include? All of these must be performed in a facility operating under a grant of inspection. The inspection of the animals, antemortem, and humane handling. So any inspected establishment, any animal that is brought for inspection is looked at by the inspector both prior and after slaughter. There are basic requirements for the animals during holding. They have to be provided water. There can't be any sharp or pointy objects, poking them. The animals have to be able to turn around, so they can't just be kept like in a in a chute, or they have to be able to be to turn around and to lay down if necessary. All the cattle have to be ambulatory upon arrival. If they are not ambulatory or walking, then they cannot be slaughtered under inspection. Additionally, the inspection of the carcasses after the humane stunning. Every carcass goes through post-mortem inspection. It varies by species in terms of the depth of the inspection, but regardless, all the species have a zero tolerance for feces, milk, or ingesta. Poultry is only feces, but like I said, that's every animal, every time, in any of the inspected establishments that you may take your animals to. I'm trying to get it to go to the next one. So the inspection of the facilities is the other main part. That's the majority of what our in-field inspectors do on a daily basis. I kind of just include the basic 416.1 kind of sanitation rule. Each official establishment must be operated and maintained in a manner sufficient to prevent the creation of unsanitary conditions and to ensure that the product is not adulterated. So that's very broad spectrum. You can kind of tell there's no like specifics or, you know, in terms of like it has to be a 10 by 10 room. They don't have guidelines like that. It's very broad, so that way you can adapt and adjust to what facility you may already have, or you know, if you're building a facility, you need to be able to make it big enough to meet that general rule. However, if there's no minimal requirement on how big that has to be. Sorry, my office mate here is a little whiny, but additionally, the inspection of the process includes the fabrication, packaging, and labeling of those said carcasses or boxed beef that is ordered from an inspected establishment. You know, that's the basic processing that you know of, like from the whole carcass, breaking it down into the ready to eat, or not ready to eat, but into the primals, then processed down into retail cuts that you see in the stores, or that you get your own meat packaged as. But it also includes smoking, curing, any heat treating that you're planning on wholesaling is what will be included under inspection. The labeling requirements, I have another slide a little bit later on of the actual labeling requirements, because it's a more broader spectrum question. So kind of how do we see it all? We have observations, like I said, for every slaughter, snack stick formulation, physical observations. We also review the records. In inspected establishments, you have to complete SSOP, HACCP records on a daily basis. And then there's also routine sampling that are sent, depending on what the establishment makes, will be what projected samples they will get from, either if they're a state plant, they'll get them from us, from VDACS, or if they're a federal plant, they'll get them through FSIS. So here's the labeling requirements that I talked about. These 8 required features: product name, inspection legend, and establishment number, which is what is in that picture right there. A handling statement, so that's like keep refrigerated or keep frozen, net weight statement, ingredient statement, address line, nutrition facts, and safe handling instructions. The nutrition facts are the kind of the ones where don't necessarily are, that's kind of the up to. If it's, I'll show pictures of a generic label that is approved later on in the presentation. But when it says safe handling instructions, that little box there is what that means. That's the very basic safe handling instructions that's included on many, many labels. So our other types of services that we provide for OMPS is custom exempt. And custom exempt is probably what a lot of people are familiar with, if they've taken their own beef somewhere or their own animals somewhere to have processed, you know, if they've split it in half with someone. But a custom exempt operator slaughters amenable livestock, so pork, beef, sheep, or goats, belonging to someone else and processes the parts and carcasses for the exclusive use in the household of that person. So think of it as you are selling the animal, you are not selling the meat piece by piece. This is if you are selling, let's say you have a beef and you want to take it to get processed. Beforehand, you're going to sell half one to the family A, and then you're selling the other half to family B. Those two families are going to decide how they want it cut up. The custom exempt processor will do that. Everything will be marked not for sale, and it'll go straight back to those family A and family B. It can't be split. It can't be split up. It can't be sold into commerce. It's basically a service that you're providing. The owner of the livestock may opt to have their livestock slaughtered under the custom exemption by one custom exempt operator, and then you can take it to a different one to have it processed if you choose that. Like I said, all products are marked not for sale, and you're selling the animal, you're not selling the meat piece by piece. There are a few records required that you have to keep. I included those just so that way you know that there are different requirements that you have to have. Number one, the records, you have to identify the owner's full name and address, the species, approximate weight of the carcass, date is received, date the animal was slaughtered, processing date, types of the products prepared, finished weight, and the date the owner picks up the custom product. The other types of records you need to keep, and this is if you are slaughtering or processing beef, you have to maintain records that certify that the animal was ambulatory before slaughter and that the animal was either 30 months of age or younger or older. That depends on the removal of the SRMs, depending if they are plus or minus 30 months. Basically, if they are 30 months or older, then you will need to basically, it'll have to be all boneless. You can't keep, you know, like T-bones or porterhouses. They would have to be boned down into strips and fillets. I also included the link to our custom exempt PDF on our website. So that way you can see the actual, they have the regulations included at the bottom and just kind of a more basic overview if that's something that you're interested in. Am I going too fast?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Sorry, I feel like I'm flying. I just want to make sure we're good. All right. Another big interest is with poultry exempt, especially going to farmers markets. The main two, I would say two main categories that people are interested in. It's the 1,000 bird or less exemption, which is pretty self-explanatory. I included the requirements here. The poultry grower slaughters no more than 1,000 healthy birds of his or her own raising in a calendar year. So, you know, if you start April 1, you have until the next April 1 to do 1,000 birds. Number two, the poultry grower does not engage in buying or selling poultry products other than those produced from poultry raised on their own farm. Slaughter and processing are conducted under sanitary conditions, practices, and procedures. That's so that the products are sound, clean, and fit for human food. Number four, the producer keeps records necessary for the effective enforcement of this exemption act. They're basically, and in our poultry exempt document, it has the records that you need to keep. So basically, you're going to keep the number of birds that you slaughtered, that they were, you're going to verify that they're healthy, and where and who you sold them to. Number five, the poultry products do not move in commerce. So you're able to sell your poultry exempt products at a farmer's market, but they can't be sold to be sold somewhere else. So, you know, you can bring them to the farmer's market and sell. They have to be properly labeled. And then our poultry exempt document has all the labeling requirements that I can, I think I have it in the next slide, but if not, I can definitely provide it for you guys. But the process in terms of getting your poultry exempt permit, the 1,000 birds or less only requires an application. You basically are verbally agreeing that you're going to follow these requirements, and that after that, you're going to, obviously not go over 1,000 birds, and you're going to keep the records that you're supposed to keep. The next category is the 1,000 to 20,000 birds. That's a little more intense, kind of for the people that have a larger flock. The application process is a little different since you're growing a larger amount of product. There's a little bit more in-depth application process. It does involve a facility walkthrough, which is fairly basic. There's these 8 requirements, but then the facility requirements are consist of pest control, what you plan on doing with your inedible items. Excuse me. What you plan on doing with your inedible items, like if you compost or landfill or Valley Protein, come get some, whatever you plan on doing. The fact that the birds are healthy, it's not a very, I wouldn't call it, something that you really need to worry about. It's, basically if you're following these 8 requirements, then the walkthrough should be fairly easy. But I'll go through these real quick. Number 1, the producer grower slaughters and processes on his or her own premises no more than 20,000 birds raised by them in a calendar year. In a calendar year, only poultry or poultry products he or she prepares according to the 20,000 limit exemption. You cannot be in multiple exemptions at the same time, is basically what that's saying. Number 3, the poultry products are distributed solely by the producer grower, only within Virginia and DC. 4, the poultry are healthy when slaughtered. 5, the slaughter and processing at the producer's premise are conducted using sanitary conditions, practices, and procedures. So that way the product is not adulterated. The producer only distributes poultry products he or she produced under the producer grower exemption. The facility used to slaughter or process the poultry is not used to slaughter another person's poultry, unless there's an exemption granted. That doesn't happen very often, so don't worry about that one too much. But basically, you can't share a facility with multiple people under the same exemption. The shipping containers, when distributed in an interstate commerce, bear these certain following things. All of them have to have that exempt PL 90-492 on the label. That includes the 1,000 bird or less as well. That statement has to be on all exempt poultry. But then like I said, you would have to do a facility walkthrough. And then depending on your water supply, whether that is by private well or by municipal, will depend if we have to take a water sample. If you have a well, then you would need to take a water sample every 6 months or twice a year. If you are on municipal water, then you would just need to be able to pull up a copy of the most recent water report. Generally, if you're out on a farm, you're on a well anyway. So you can take the water samples to any of our labs, I think, except for Ivor. We'll do water samples. But I did learn this week that if you take a water sample, it has to be submitted within 30 hours of collection. So like you take it today and you're like, oh, I'm going to drop it off on Monday, they will not accept your water sample. Just a fun fact that I found out this week. Let's see, we'll go to the next one. Okay. Kind of our other segment of our in the field section of OMPS is our compliance enforcement officer team. They provide consumer protection through enforcement of comprehensive system of inspection laws and regulations designed to provide and maintain a safe, unadulterated, wholesome, and accurately labeled meat and poultry supply. They travel throughout the state and they visit gas stations, they visit farm stores, they visit random places everywhere to basically make sure that only inspected product is entering commerce. That also includes illegal slaughters, illegal slaughtering of animals and then trying to sell them, the kind of conditions that they have found before are sometimes honestly a little appalling that, you know, that these happen, and I'm very thankful that they were able to step in and stop some of these operations from happening, because it definitely is for the protection of the consumer. They conduct in-commerce activities at warehouses, distributors, transporters, retailers, ports of entry, and other in-commerce businesses to ensure that meat and poultry and egg products are safe, wholesome, and correctly labeled and packaged. So in the picture, this, I guess, explaining what is wrong. Main thing in that the Ford Ranger in the bottom right, you cannot slaughter downed or non-ambulatory cattle. And that was a downed animal that somebody was trying to process and sell in a commerce. And that was a condition that they found. There's the same truck again, and some of the conditions that they've found and shut down, so that way none of that ever reaches your table or your freezer. This is kind of just a little snippet of what makes Virginia special in terms of our OMPS segment. We have a wide variety of establishments throughout the state. We vary from very, very small kind of one-man operations to a multiple shift type corporation establishment. We vary in products from dry age cut to order whole carcasses to ready to eat snack sticks to country ham, and then, you know, your traditional raw and ground products. I personally, as an inspector, I have worked an assignment where I started at a ready to eat plant in the morning, and I went and relieved an inspector on the kill floor that same day. So it's kind of a variety of things that you can be doing on a daily basis. And then now I'm just kind of going to highlight some plants in different areas. I know in some areas there's a little bit of a dry spell in terms of inspected facilities, but if there's generally not any inspected facilities, there's probably definitely a custom facility somewhere nearby that you could potentially take your animals to. So I'm going to start. Not all of these are places that you can take your animals to or necessarily buy from directly, but they're still Virginia inspected places, and it all supports Virginia agriculture. So River Ridge Farms is in Independence, Virginia. They are a farm-based snack stick operation. They have grown immensely in the past couple years. During COVID, they provided, when all the kids were home from school, they provided snack sticks for the school lunch program. And so if you see any of these sticks anywhere, they also have, they've also been doing a lot of pet treats as well, which is not under inspection, but the need has been growing for them a lot. So they've been answering it and staying very, very busy. Up next in Lexington, we have Donald's Meat Processing. Now this is a place where you can schedule and take your animals to. This is the example of the label that I talked about earlier. It has all the required things on it. And additionally, you can also get your, you know, if your farm has like a logo or something like that, you can add that to your label. However, if you're making any claims like organic or no antibiotics, or whatever raising handling claim you want to make, those have to be supported by you with paperwork to the establishment in order to put that on the label. But they provide slaughter, processing for beef, pork. I think they also do sheep. Like I said, they're located in Lexington. Up next is Seven Hills. Seven Hills is also a slaughter processing setup. They've provided the dinner for the inaugural dinner for the president. I believe that was, the inaugural dinner. But you can also schedule and take your own animals there, and they'll cut them for mostly however you want. Up next is one of our bigger guys. It's the Monogram snacks. I'm sure y'all have seen these in the store and just didn't realize that this is where they came from. The chicken chips were one of their newer branches not too long ago. I'm sure since then they've added something else, but this is what they're on now. But I'm sure these are all things that you've seen in the store. When I made this presentation, I had some of the inspectors send me pictures of things that they were making, while they were there. And this was just a short list of those snacks. Let's see. Up next is Virginia Tech Meat Science Center. So they're a little different kind of than the rest of our plants. It's an entirely student-run organization. So constantly they're training new employees, and as they graduate and they welcome in new students, they slaughter and process. They do not slaughter for anybody else. They only slaughter their own animals. But they have a retail store, and they also have an online ordering form where you can, if you're not a Blacksburg local, I'm consider myself fortunate, live in Christiansburg, so I can go to the retail store when they're open. But if you are not local and you need to order it and have it picked up, they do have an online ordering form that opens kind of on a weekly basis. The next up is Gano's. Actually, Gano's, I still included them just because they're kind of a Virginia legend. They've actually closed down the sausage plant that was in Good, but I grew up eating Gano's, and I know a lot of y'all have seen Gano's in the store. That was a TA plant for us. They slaughtered and did whole hog sausage, and that's where all that was made. Up next is Terra de Siena. That is in Amelia Courthouse, Virginia. They're very unique. They create like original and authentic Italian dried ham products, prosciutto and salamis. I don't think you can purchase straight from their actual facility, but they do sell to many grocers, so that it's out there for you to find, hopefully in your area. Up next is Smith Valley Meats, located in Rich Creek. That's in Giles County, right? They're a stone's throw from West Virginia. They provide slaughter and processing. You can schedule beef, pork, lamb. They also have done alpaca. They've done buffalo. They also have pigs on site if you are wanting a whole pig for yourself. They do dry age their beef most of the time if it's got enough fat on it. But yeah, you can schedule to take your own animal there. And then you fill out a cut sheet, and they will fill it out to, they'll cut it to your specification. Next is one of our other big guys. It's the Nestle prepared foods. I had our inspector send me these a while back too when they were making these. These are just some of the flavors that they make that is inspected at that plant. I know y'all probably seen those in the store. I feel like I flew through that and I'm just taking a giant deep breath right now. I turned the chat off because it was in the way, but now I'm turning it back over.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions for you. That was a great presentation. And I personally love Tierra de Siena, so I was happy to see them included. We have a question about quail. I'm not sure if that falls under you, not Bob White. Does that fit into your program or whose program? What state agency does that fall under?
I believe quail fall, I would have to check if they're on the amenable species list.
Yeah, I know we've been having conversations offline about it. So yeah.
I think they are kind of like pheasant. They're kind of in the same category as pheasant, which I believe are considered, you would either have the 1,000-bird exemption or they would just be non-amenable. So either way, it wouldn't be like an intense inspection to do those. But yeah.
All right. I have two questions about the 1,000-bird exemption, and then we'll ask Hunter to jump on. But does an individual slaughtering less than 1,000 meat birds still need to have them processed at a USDA facility to sell at a market, or can they slaughter them on their own?
So if you would fall under the 1,000 birds or less category. The application is on our website under the Meat and Poultry Services forms. You do not have to have them processed at the USDA facility. However, they still need to be properly labeled with that exemption statement. They still need to have the species on it, the farm name, all the basic requirements. You don't have to do the full nutrition, like calories, fat, all that. But the basic labels that, that you saw in the presentation are what you would need for that.
Okay. And then the last question regarding the 1,000-bird exemption, are producers still allowed to make chicken broth, dehydrated feet, necks, etc. under this exemption?
So bone broth for poultry is non-amenable. It's not under inspection at all. So if you have the 1,000-bird exemption, as long as you still count whatever you make, like the dehydrated feet, necks, whatever, as long as you can't do 1,000 necks and then 1,000 of something else, you know what I mean? Like they still count into your total number of birds.
But then they need to have that, but it does need to be under food safety inspection, correct? The chicken broth.
Correct. Yes.
Farmers market. Yep. So it does fall.
If they want to retail that, then yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's where we've been having a lot of confusion about that. So I appreciate.
Yeah. The bone broth, like if you make bone broth from chickens, from poultry, then it is non-amenable. If you make bone broth from beef, pork, lambs, it is amenable and does fall under inspection. So that might have made it worse. I don't know.
Yeah, you just threw that monkey
chicken bone broth doesn't need to be inspected.
Bone broth, correct.
Bone broth, yeah. Okay.
Bone broth.
To sell at
regular,
farmer's market, it doesn't need to have food safety inspection?
Now I can't speak for food safety. For Office of Meat and Poultry.
Okay.
Chicken bone broth is not amenable for us. Yeah. We don't have regulation over that.
Pam, Megan, any of y'all still on?
We would require food safety inspection for the sale of chicken broth at a farmer's market.
Okay. That's what we have always been told is that any kind of bone broth or stock has to be inspected, food safety wise.
Mhm.
So I guess we're talking about two different things. So they follow under your 1,000 chicken, your 1,000
Broth,
poultry.
and under my
and-
understanding, broth and bone broth are different.
Right.
So broth is a process that would fall under food and safety and would fall for our purposes. Generally, it would, to make the broth, you can do that under the 1,000 birds or less.
So then they
However,
would- Mhm.
bone broth is non-amenable
Okay.
because they're different things as far as unless I'm wrong on that, Megan.
Megan.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I want to double check what I have in my references just to make sure, because this is something we have gone back and forth on a lot.
I say it gets a little gray area, I guess, when you go between bone broth and just broth.
Mhm.
Because I had a question come to me the other day about bone broth, and I had to be advised by my supervisor about that, and I learned then that poultry bone broth is non-amenable.
Yeah, so the making of chicken broth or chicken stock falls under FDA jurisdiction and therefore under the food safety program, not under USDA, and so not then following that path down to Office of Meat and Poultry, who Peyton represents. So so chicken broth or chicken stock would require inspection from the food safety program. And then I don't want to speak for Peyton, but basically what I have is that the making of beef broth is inspected by the Office of Meat and Poultry. I think the only exception to that is that food safety would do the inspection of the broth making process itself if they are only retailing the product and not wholesaling it.
Retail, then it would fall under you guys, but if
Yes.
it's wholesale, then it would fall under meat and poultry.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So regardless of whether it is bone broth or bone stock, it falls under, if it's being retailed at a farmer's market, it falls under VDACS inspection.
Food safety.
Food safety.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear for the sake of the farmers markets who think that they don't need to have their broth inspected. Okay, great. And then when it falls under you, Peyton, it is when it's being wholesaled.
Correct.
Okay.
And that would require a grant of inspection,
Okay.
which is like the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The official term.
I think we're clear on that. Thank you so much, Peyton. I really appreciate it. And thanks,
Thank
Megan,
you,
for jumping.
guys.
We really
I'm a
appreciate it.
vegetarian now, Peyton, from those pictures.
Oh,
But see,
gosh.
that did never enter commerce, so that's not something that you never
Well,
ate.
I
Thank
appreciate
goodness.
whoever had that terrible day.
Yeah, they went to court and everything. So he actually ended up getting that individual was charged with animal cruelty as well. So
Oh, good.
It was-
Good that.
it was kind of a good ending, even
Yeah.
though it was a rough middle. It was a good ending.
Ugh. Can you tell I'm
Thank
from
you
a
so
city?
All right, we're gonna thank you, Peyton, so much. I really appreciate it. We're gonna jump
Thank
in with Hunter Moyer. If y'all have any additional questions for Peyton, those of you that are farmers and want to know about the wholesale side and the processing, drop them in the chat and we'll make sure she answers them. If you're specifically talking about the retail and the farmers market side, drop that in the chat and we'll get that also. So I would like to say a special thanks to all of our partners. Again, the Virginia Department of Health, Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Virginia Cooperative Extension, and the Virginia Family Nutrition Program, as well as the USDA, FMPP, Farm Credit, VSU College of Agriculture, Prince Charitable Trust, Virginia Fresh Match, and the Virginia's for Farmers Market Lovers Trail and Virginia's for Farmers Market Lovers. We thank you.